My daughter is hiding her psychopathy diagnosis from her fiancé. Story. I'm the dad of a 25-year-old young woman who I love very much. I've been able to have a good relationship with my daughter, and I enjoy my time with her. But there's one thing about her that would give many people pause. She is a diagnosed sociopath. She exhibited odd, disturbing behavior at a young age, and after a serious incident of abuse towards her younger sister, I realized she needed professional help. Throughout her elementary years, she struggled heavily, getting in lots of trouble in school for lying, cruelty, and all other types of misbehaviors. With an enormous amount of therapy and support, her bad behavior was minimized as she grew older. She received an ASPD diagnosis at 18, and I had suspected it for long prior. After her aggressive behavior was tamed, her following years were much more fruitful. She's law-abiding, has a decent job and a good education, and has many good friendships and admirers. Especially male admirers. She is very, very charming and adept at attracting guys and maintaining their interest. She uses that old dating guide, The Rules, like a Bible. She currently has a boyfriend of about a year and a half who's crazy about her, and who I have a very strong relationship with. We live in the same area and spend time together regularly. He is a great guy, very kind, funny, and intelligent. But I doubt she loves him. We've had some very honest, in-depth discussions about her mental health since her diagnosis, and she's been open with me that she doesn't feel love or empathy towards anyone, even family. When she acted very sad and broken up over the death of one of her closest friends at the funeral, she confessed to me privately that it was all a put-on and that she felt pretty neutral about the whole thing. She has also stated she has never once felt guilty about anything she's ever done and doesn't know what guilt feels like. While she enjoys being around her boyfriend and is sexually attracted to him, I highly doubt she feels much of anything towards him love-wise. Her boyfriend, who might propose soon, has no idea about her diagnosis, and she's been very upfront with me that she has no plans to ever tell him, thinking it'll scare him away. I've made it clear to her that she needs to tell him the truth before they marry, that he has the right to know and consider it, or I will, to which she always responds, "I know you wouldn't dare." I actually would. I really like and respect this young man, and would feel awful keeping this secret from him and letting him walk into a marriage without this piece of knowledge. I'm not trying to sabotage my daughter's future. Maybe her boyfriend's love of her personality and other aspects is enough that it won't end the relationship. It's his decision to make, but he deserves all the facts. Someday he's bound to find out she's a bit off. It can't be kept a secret forever. Am I the a-hole? Response 1. Wow, that's the hardest "am I the a-hole" I've read in a long time. You're ethically compromised either way. It's probably best you stay out of it. Edit. I can't possibly respond to all the comments this comment is getting, sorry. Scroll further for more in-depth discussion of the subject. As to why this got so many upvotes, I guess it's because I was the first, or one of the first people to comment. Reply 1. I think the guy needs to know, deserves to know, but what if it does destroy the relationship? I can't imagine what it could mean for OP to have his sociopath daughter be very angry at him. Damn OP, I'm so sorry. Not the a-hole, but I don't know if you should follow through with telling him or not. Reply 2. OP to have his sociopath daughter be very angry at him. Does a sociopath even get angry? I have no clue. Reply 3. I just Googled it for us. However, they do experience proto-emotions, primitive emotions, that rear their ugly heads in moments of perceived need. The sociopath is quite capable of intense anger, fruit, AA, and rage. Sociopath male, E. Thomas, 2013, describes suddenly experiencing a flash of anger that then leaves as quickly as it arrives. She doesn't forget what angered her. Instead, her rage morphs into a sense of calm purpose. /personality disorders /sociopath. Do sociopaths cry or even have feelings? Reply 4. A fake anger is one of the emotions that they definitely have. I think this is a real possibility for OP. Reply 5. Yes, I believe they just don't feel bad about any bad behavior they do as a result of the rage. It's scary. Response 2. NTA. Holy crap, what an awful situation to be in. I know she's your daughter, but this is marriage for this guy and he deserves to know. You already told her you were going to tell if she didn't, so I think you should. Reply 1. As someone who has seen this personally, I can assure you the person affected wished they had known prior. Reply 2. Definitely not the a-hole. You need to tell him. Sociopaths deal long-term harm to anyone involved if no one is aware of their state. Response 3. Info point 1. Your motivations. I'm unclear on your motivation for telling him. Is she still a danger to him physically? Or is it important he knows she is unable to love him like a normal person could, whatever that means? Or is it because you believe she's lying to him and deserves to know that? Or something else? Point 2. Her feelings towards him. She clearly has some attachment to him. From what you've laid out, I'd argue she loves him as much as she's capable of loving someone. E.g., her concern with you telling him about the diagnosis is that he'd leave her. That seems to indicate she doesn't like that outcome. You appear to write off this attachment as purely sexual. Why? Reply 1. These are good questions. I am also wondering if children will likely be in their future? If so, is she capable of being a good mother, or would the father find out, too late, that she isn't fit to be a parent? Reply 2. Yeah, that would be my biggest concern in the situation. How likely are kids? Because sociopathic tendencies can be passed along, many types of mental illness in this aspect can be passed along to another generation. There are many other outliers, and I feel another discussion is needed with the daughter because she may not know about these other possibilities and may not have thought about them. It's rough no matter how you cut it. Reply 3. I'm sure sociopaths/psychopaths can and do have families. I think I've even read a Reddit post once where a guy was confessing he was a sociopath and didn't love his wife or children, but wouldn't ever hurt them, and rather enjoyed his life the way it was. Just because someone is unable to feel certain emotions doesn't mean they don't want to lead a normal life. Reply 4. There are a lot of sociopaths in the world, and most of them live relatively normal lives. That may well be a fine parent and a fine spouse. Reply 5. All great questions, but it misses the bigger picture. Daughter has a serious mental condition and intends to withhold this information. If they get married, this will have a huge impact on their marriage and possibly carry on to the children. If this does get to an engagement, daughter must tell him. Immediately, yesterday, before it happens. If she does not, he must step in. Her withholding would be the original sin of the marriage and put a solid nail in the coffin of that marriage before it even starts. Response 4. Simply for any future children they may have, I say not the a-hole. If this guy wants kids, it's really gonna suck to find out he is co-parenting with a sociopath. Also, is ASPD genetic? If so, he definitely deserves to know. Reply 1. Personality disorders, like all mental illness, have a genetic component, as in kids are more likely to have it, but usually personality disorders, SP cluster B, which ASPD is in, develop as a result of things during childhood, often emotional neglect, abuse, etc. Not implying that of OP, the exact cause for PDs is highly discussed, that's just the most common one. Reply 2. To continue off your point, there is a higher chance of emotional neglect for said kids if their mother has ASPD. Reply 3. This is true, of course, just that there is a very good chance if OP's daughter had kids and she continued being functioning, the likelihood of them developing ASPD is pretty low. In terms of genetic mental health disorders, personality disorders are much lower on list of priorities than something like schizophrenia because of all the external causes involved in PDs. Reply 4. As someone who was, thankfully, fairly briefly, raised by a person not genetically related to me, but who was officially diagnosed with ASPD, I have very strong concerns about the possibility of a child in OP's daughter's future. I believe the genetic component is the least of their worries. Kids are annoying. A major reason parents or anyone can put up with them at all is because of the instinct to care for them and love them, which is almost completely absent with this diagnosis. What happens when the baby won't stop crying? The toddler has a tantrum, a teen talks back. The abuse I suffered as a child from a sociopath has left me with deep scars. I have developed BPD as a result. My disorder is so well managed that it is barely perceptible, even to those closest to me, and I adore children. However, I know very well the damage that people with cluster B disorders can do to a kid, and I have to accept that I will never be a capable parent. I believe that the risk is too great that OP's daughter and boyfriend will conceive and the child will be in danger. No matter how well her disorder is managed, a child will always be at risk. Reply 5. This. I'm diagnosed with BPD as well, probably due to a mix of genetics from my dad, undiagnosed BPD, and harsh experiences all throughout my adolescence. I've only recently begun to consider myself stable, and I'm in my 30s, i.e. it took a long time. I'm in a loving relationship, almost done with a BA in teaching. I work with music as I've always wanted to do. Life is more than okay. But I can barely keep it together, just being me. It takes so much work, just on a daily basis. Everything's hour to hour for me, always. And I don't know if I'll spiral out of control again. I'm stronger now, so it won't be as easy to shake me, but it could happen, and it's definitely something a partner must know, so they can make an informed choice about their life. I chose tubal litigation to take the choice away from me in regard to kids. I would not wish my illness on anyone, and I cannot raise a kid. I'm not capable. To be fair though, OP's daughter and her boyfriend might be child-free, we don't know. But take it from someone who knows how to manipulate. Keeping it from him could definitely be a control tactic. Response 5. Goodness, this is tough. Put me down for not the a-hole, because I'd really want to know that info before marrying. That of course doesn't mean you're not at fault for outing your daughter, but in my opinion, it's for the greater good. Reply 1. Keeping secrets like this never works in the long run anyways. Right now he's enamored, but how long can that last? Surely the facade will slip over the years, and then they're looking at a nasty divorce with potential children in the mix. Reply 2. And if she's incapable of feeling empathy or concern, then she is, theoretically, capable of a lot of things in a divorce, even in a marriage. Not the a-hole. He deserves to know. Response 6. Wow. I have never read an Am I the A-hole and not immediately known what was right until this post. I feel for you. I'm going to go with not the a-hole no matter what you do because your heart is obviously in the right place. Reply 1. This is the type of dilemma this sub should be for, instead of the easy, all-agreeing, not rocket science ones. I guess if you were the young man, you'd probably want to know. People's initial surface behavior wears off, and you're left with a fundamental person. So no doubt he'll eventually find out, and seeing he's close with the father, will probably feel betrayed. He wasn't enlightened. If you were the young woman, you definitely wouldn't want him to be told. But any marriage based on subterfuge can't last. Does she have a right not to tell him? It's an awful one, but she probably thinks yes. She obviously knows what the consequences could be, yet appears to only care about what will impact her. The fact that she could destroy the relationship later and have him be hurt and waste years of his life don't seem to have made an impression on her long-term thought process. Not the a-hole. I feel for the guy, but he deserves to have all the information at his disposal to make an informed decision himself. Response 7. This is very difficult, but I'm going to go with everyone sucks here. She should tell him, you're right. He does deserve all the facts. He deserves to know. But I'm not trying to sabotage my daughter's future. You sort of are. She is a functioning sociopath and is trying to be a normal person. She feels incapable of love, but has found the closest thing possible to it in this relationship. If you told her boyfriend, she's a sociopath and I doubt she can ever really feel love for you the way most people do, you're either going to make them both mad or you're going to drive this boy out of your daughter's life. And I don't think you should be the one making that move. It's a hard place to be. Whose feelings do you want to put first? If they're both happy, why ruin a good thing? He does deserve it. But is it really your move to make? Is her mental issue something you have the right to disclose? This is possibly a mistake she's making, but maybe she should learn to make her mistakes herself. Otherwise, she'll just do this again. Reply 1. She is a functioning sociopath and is trying to be a normal person. A good place to start would be to tell the guy so that he can make his own choice. You can't have a lasting partnership without the foundation of honesty. What she's doing is terrible. Reply 2. A lot of people have mental health issues. A lot of people are trying to be normal. That doesn't mean you should hide your diagnoses from your partner, especially if you intend to marry them. The thing is that she doesn't respond to things like a normal person would. No matter how hard she tries, it's not likely that she will ever feel emotions the same way a normal person would. At the very least, he needs to be able to recognize signs of her when she isn't mentally stable so that he can keep himself safe. Just because she's trying to be normal now doesn't mean it's going to be forever. She may not be doing him harm now, but if the time comes in the future where she feels like he's wronged her or someone else in some way, her reaction to that can have huge consequences to him. Reply 3. At the very least, he needs to be able to recognize signs of her when she isn't mentally stable so that he can keep himself safe. Just because she's trying to be normal now doesn't mean it's going to be forever. She may not be doing him harm now, but if the time comes in the future where she feels like he's wronged her or someone else in some way, her reaction to that can have huge consequences to him. I would 100% want to know. It sucks for her, but who would want to marry someone who potentially would harm you with zero guilt about it? She is going to have to do a lot of faking/pretending to be a normal person. I would not want to go into a marriage without this very important bit of info. Reply 4. A lot of people have mental health issues. A lot of people are trying to be normal. I don't care what mental health issues someone has. If you have depression and murder someone, you're still a murderer. The same applies to this case. The action is carpe diem. The motivations don't justify the action. Reply 5. This is possibly a mistake she's making, but maybe she should learn to make her mistakes herself. Otherwise, she'll just do this again. This line makes no sense since we're talking about someone with ASPD. People with ASPD do not have remorse to learn from a mistake because they do not consider it a mistake to begin with. They disregard morals, feelings, social norms, and manipulate people. The core characteristic of an individual with ASPD is irresponsibility. They often have tempers and can resort to violence, aggression, or abuse. This isn't about teaching her a lesson. It's about telling an unknowing individual their potential spouse has the hardest to treat mental illness out there, and their safety is at stake, not the a-hole. Response 8, NTA. You should tell him, but he probably won't believe you. He is getting into something really dangerous with someone who doesn't react or respond in the way a normal person would. Almost anyone would want to know this. Reply 1. Just because she's a sociopath doesn't automatically mean she's really dangerous, especially if her family was smart enough to give her therapy when she needed it. I'm not saying he shouldn't know, or that being kept ignorant is fair to him, just commenting on the danger part. Reply 2. I wondered this as well, if he would believe the OP. If she is as charming as we are led to believe, the boyfriend might not believe this. I also wonder if she would retaliate against her father. If she feels no guilt, but something is being taken away from her, how can this father not be afraid at times? Response 9. NTA. If she truly doesn't believe she feels emotionally connected to humans on such a degree, I wonder why she is highly objective to telling her partner the truth. I'm 25F, also have this problem, not as bad as your daughter. I've been institutionalized as a teenager, and I've done years of therapy. I have gotten better, and my partner is well aware of my struggles to be empathetic/emotional person. In fact, he is the only person I've ever met who has helped me start feeling any kind of emotion or empathy towards others. Maybe she found that in her partner to some sort of extent. Either way, the guy deserves to know if she hasn't told him yet. Reply 1. I hope I word this correctly. I'm not sure of the appropriate terms. And if this is too personal a question, I apologize. If a sociopath is unable to feel emotions, how is another person teaching you how to feel them? Like, what's changing? Reply 2. Honestly, I don't know. I've been in a few long-term relationships and got married once at 20 in a seemingly healthy partnership until I learned I was cheated on. My response to that was to immediately file for a divorce and get an annulment. Never talk to the guy again. In fact, I acted like nothing even happened. I've only been with my current partner for a year and didn't think we'd develop anything too serious. 6 months into our relationship, I was diagnosed with 2 tumors. and had a major surgery and felt truly miserable and alone for the first time in my life. I wasn't sure what my life sentence was after my diagnosis. He never once left my side, and he took me to every follow-up appointment and took wonderful care of me. I think that was when I felt true love for the first time in my life. I actually cried when we got into our first big argument recently. It was terrifying, but I feel more human now. Response 10, NTA. As a parent, I don't envy your position here, but her boyfriend has a right to know. They are happy now, at least he is, but it's grossly unfair to stand by and allow him to propose and her to get married to him if he doesn't know the truth. Best wishes for your unfortunate predicament. Response 11, YWBTA, with good intentions. Your daughter probably feels the most attachment and emotion she could possibly feel in this situation. There is a huge negative stigma surrounding this disorder and could possibly scare him off, and this could cause her to have a strong reaction if she is as attached as you make it seem, which is shown with her not wanting to tell him about it in the first place, as it might scare him off. She could not want to scare him off for wanting to actually have him around or just use as a boy toy, but if she isn't cheating or harming him, what's the point? Depending on the reason for telling him, could make you test such as because you think he needs to know the truth. He probably does, but since she's 18 and a legal adult, this is her decision and choice to make. You could tell him, but what's to stop her from just keeping it from the next guy and from you on who she is dating and talking to? Give her the support needed to start the conversation with resources that would give him a bettering understanding on her disorder. If you just went behind her back and told him, that would you TA and could hurt your relationship with your daughter. If she isn't doing anything wrong and is actively trying to work on bettering herself to have a semi-normal emotional life, stay out of it. It is none of your business and between her and him. Unless she is a serious harm to his safety and well-being, just leave it alone. Reply 1. If she isn't doing anything wrong and is actively trying to work on bettering herself to have a semi-normal emotional life, not telling the person you intend to marry that you're a diagnosed sociopath who is incapable of love or empathy is incredibly wrong. This is about as deceitful and manipulative a thing you can do. Response 12, NTA. And I think the people saying everyone sucks here aren't thinking far enough into the future. When does the deception end? And yes, purposefully not telling the person you're planning to marry about a mental health diagnosis is deception. Let's picture the boyfriend posting on here 5 years from now. He knows his wife isn't as emotional as some people, but now they've had a kid or two. And he has discovered that unless he's there watching, she does none of the things you would expect a mother to do. She doesn't comfort their hurt toddler or the fussy baby. She doesn't seem to actually get upset if something bad happens to one of them. She's super dismissive of their needs and basically seems annoyed by their existence more often than not. Because as a parent of 2 little ones, babies/toddlers can be a total pain in the ass. And if you don't have your love for them to overshadow that, things are going to go poorly. Finally, she admits to you that she is a sociopath. She feels nothing for the kids and isn't attached to them at all. What's more, she doesn't really love you either. She never has, because she's not really capable of it. And then you find out that her whole family knew, and they knew she was keeping it a secret from you, and they said nothing. While some here would sympathize with the parents, ultimately you'd still probably label them as a-holes. Reply 1. This sums it up so well. As much as the daughter deserves a normal life, she needs to let other people know, since her boyfriend deserves a normal life too. It's not fair to have one love the other and the other not care. The boyfriend deserves someone who actually loves him, or at least the option to stay if he's okay with it. Response 13, YTA. But I say that lightly. While I agree that he deserves to know, it isn't your place to tell him. My guess is she probably recognizes that there is a stigma around sociopaths, mainly sociopath equals homicidal, and doesn't want to be seen that way. Reply 1. This brings up a few things for me. Was this not something discussed when she perhaps started dating in the first place? Are we supposed to be non-empathetic to them simply because they are incapable of feeling it back? I feel pretty bad about this whole thing in a way. There's no denying the boyfriend should know, but the idea of the father essentially breaking this kind of really sacred trust without warning until things got serious gets to me, especially since he never refers to dangerous behavior as a diagnosed adult, but the chat jumps to so many conclusions so quickly, and it almost makes you not second guess why she wouldn't want anyone to know this secret. Reply 2, right? All of these responses, like tell him immediately that he might be with someone who could end up being a dangerous person and then watch your back, are precisely why I can't blame her for wanting to keep it secret. If the stats are right, there are a fair amount of sociopaths out in the world that we as a population interact with regularly, who are completely law-abiding and upstanding people. Maybe it's not with the same motivations as some people, but they know what is right and wrong and they follow it. Why do we get to make that harder for them with our knee-jerk assumptions based on horror movies and thrillers? Reply 3. There's so many holes in all these not the a-hole conclusions. She's devoid of all human attachment? So why are you worried about her ever making the guy anything more than a F-buddy? But wait, doesn't she have a significant enough relationship with the father to confide her deepest secrets in him? So now she isn't completely devoid of emotion? Then there's the case of what would happen if an actual parent, unlike the majority of not the a-hole advocates here, betrayed their child like this. You think after potentially breaking up her 18-month relationship, oh my God, how are they not married yet? She would ever let her dad in again? All for the greater good, right? Because now he's guaranteed to never have a part in any of her relationships again. I don't have her disorder, and if either of my parents even tried going behind my back to tell my spouse something about me, the closest they'd ever get to speaking to me again would be my voicemail. Response 14 YTA completely. I say this as someone who is qualified to make these types of diagnoses and provide appropriate treatment. She has a history of problematic behavior, but it sounds like she is well-functioning enough as an adult. Maybe she loves in different ways to others, but that doesn't exclude her from having positive relationships. In fact, it is this sense of safety in a relationship that will help her keep learning these skills. I get that Reddit isn't going to like this because it believes that sociopaths exist in some distinct bad and untreatable category. But this is not true. Significantly, sociopathy isn't even a recognized diagnosis. So I'd be very cautious of any care provider who gave your daughter this label. Every single person with any form of history of trauma, early parental relationship difficulties, or the 40% of people who don't have a secure attachment style will have difficulty feeling love or being loved in relationships. Nobody runs around warning future partners of these things. But I feel like your daughter probably had to put in a lot of work to get to this place in life, and you telling him could quite possibly destroy her and send her spiraling? Just a thought. Response TA. You would be the a-hole if you didn't tell him. If he's going to propose, this is information he should know. It's no different than if your kid was hiding huge amounts of credit card debt or a criminal record or anything else. That said, be prepared for blowback. Reply 1. It's no different than if your kid was hiding huge amounts of credit card debt or a criminal record or anything else. It is different. Response 17. I think a lot of comments here are filled with more vitriol for the daughter than she deserves. I think she's put in a considerable amount of time, effort, and therapy and has gotten to a good point in her life. I struggle with empathy and complex emotions, and I'm not some monster who gaslights or abuses my friends, family, or partners. Anger is definitely an easier emotion for me, but like the daughter, I've had years of therapy and learning to deal with this. As far as the situation, everyone sucks here. Personally, I'm honest with my partners about my mental health conditions, especially when I think it will affect them. However, I am not having children, so that doesn't really matter. The daughter should tell the boyfriend that this is something she has and has struggled with and gone to years of therapy for, especially if children are involved, because PPD can F up even the most neurotypical person. but I understand her hesitation, especially reading this comments of people who read the word sociopath and assume she's some serial killer waiting to happen. But just because she doesn't really have / understand emotions doesn't mean she is abusing the boyfriend. We all love in our own ways. Her boyfriend probably makes her feel safe and content. She can enjoy their life together. The act she put up for the funeral makes sense for me. She understood why others feel broken up. I'm assuming she put on a show for the sake of family / friends. If I'm assuming correctly, that shows some good social understanding. OP, you are at a tough point. I understand why you feel like you need to tell the boyfriend, but you could be sabotaging your daughter's relationship. A question for you to consider. Why does she have to love him? Love isn't simply an emotion, it's a commitment. You can love ice cream, you can love baseball, but being in a relationship and possibly marrying someone is more than just love. It's passion, patience, shared interests, compromise, understanding, and above all else, commitment. Your daughter can definitely have those things. You need to talk to her and be very, very honest about your own feelings. Be clear that you think it's the right thing to do, but be open-minded and really hear what she has to say. Possibly see a therapist about this, a therapist who is specialized in sociopathic patients and tendencies. But I wish you the best of luck. Be patient and open-minded. Don't jump the gun and ruin your daughter's relationship because of your personal feelings. Her thoughts should be considered too. Edit. Mixed up my words. Wrote psychopath instead of sociopath. Response. Well, that's rough. Not the a-hole, though. And I think I have very good reasoning for why it would be good knowledge for the boyfriend to have. Empathy. Empathy. You have it. Your daughter's boyfriend has it. Your daughter doesn't. She will never truly understand what it feels like to have her heart broken. If they enter a marriage in 10 years or even less, he finds out the love of his life has never felt anything for him. I can't even imagine that. This is something you can understand and grasp the meaning of. Even if you try to explain this to your daughter, she won't get it. It's not something that can be taught. She doesn't know what she'd be putting him through. If there is knowledge that can change the course of someone's life, it should be their decision. If her diagnosis doesn't change his mind, her lying to him about it will. Response 19. So, I used to be in love with a sociopath. I have a hard time believing your daughter's relationship is just happy all the time, with no signs of her ever being horrible to him. I would ask him about that first, if there's anything about her personality that concerns him. If she manipulates him for her advantage, etc., then explain why. If they're really just happy together and she totally doesn't emotionally abuse him at all, then they'll get through it perfectly fine. Not the a-hole. Response 20. NTA people should be upfront and open with each other before a marriage. My boyfriend told me lots of things about his past that he could have hidden, but he was forward with them because he wanted us to trust each other. I'm bipolar, which my boyfriend is well aware of. If I ever left him and started another relationship, I feel that I would owe a partner to tell them the truth about my diagnosis.